What is up, you YouTubers? This is Harpy Hunter 89 and the voices in my head coming at you from the Duelist Den. And for this year's Halloween special Archetype breakdown, we're going to be going over the Vampire Archetype. Now, the Vampire Archetype is the one I selected because I didn't want to do another Ghost Trick Archetype breakdown as I did that for last year's Archetype breakdown special. So what I did was I took several of the Halloween-esque archetypes and I put them up in polls on several of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Facebook groups. And vampires won the popular vote, so that's the one I decided to do. Now, design appearance of the vampire archetype is pretty simple. They are designed pretty much off of the stereotypical vampires. Pale skin, odd-colored hair, things like that. They're mostly dressed in the aristocratic clothing of the 18th and 19th century with sort of claw-like appendages on the clothing. Now these appendages could be part of their bodies or they could just be decoration for the clothing. I'm not really sure. But their play style is designed to send cards from your opponent's deck to the graveyard. Not by milling them, but by specifically declaring a card type, monster, spell, or trap, and forcing your opponent to send a card of that type to their graveyard. Now, there are 4 monsters in this archetype that do that. First of which is Vampire Lady. Now, Vampire Lady, like all of the vampires in this archetype, is a dark attribute. They are all zombie types except for one of them, and I will get into that later on. But Vampire Lady has 1500 attack and defense, and Lady, when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, allows you to declare a card type, monster, spell, or trap again, and your opponent is forced to send a card of that type from their deck to your graveyard. The next one that does this is Vampire Duke, but Vampire Duke uses this effect when it's special summoned to the field. Vampire Duke is a level 5 with 2k attack, 0 defense. Furthermore, when Duke is normal summoned, you can target a dark vampire monster in your graveyard and special summon that target in face-up defense position. Also, Vampire Duke cannot be used for an Xyz summon except for a dark Xyz monster. Next up, we have Vampire Lord, another level 5, 2000 attack, 1500 defense. Vampire Lord has the same effect as Vampire Lady. When it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you get to declare the card for your opponent to send to the graveyard. Also, once per turn during the next standby phase, after this card in your possession was destroyed and sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card from the graveyard. Now, the wording on that is very, very important because it doesn't have to be on the field to be destroyed by the card effect. It can be in your hand and be in your deck. Wherever it's destroyed, as long as it's in your possession and gets sent to the graveyard off of a destruction, you get to special summon this card. The last vampire monster that has this ability is Vampire Grace. It's a level 6 with 2000 attack, 1200 defense. The effect is that when a level 5 or higher zombie is special summoned to your side of the field by the effect of a zombie type monster, while this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 2000 life points to special summon this card from your graveyard, and you can only use this effect of Grace once per turn. Once per turn, you can declare one card type for your opponent to send to the graveyard, and they have to send it to the graveyard. Now, Vampire Grace is the most powerful of the vampire monsters with this effect, as you do not have to meet any specific requirements. All you have to do is activate the effect. Following that, we have the Searchers of the deck, first of which is Vampire Sorcerer. This is a level 4 with 1500 attack, 1500 defense. The effect states that if this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by opponent's card effect, either by battle or card effect, again, in your possession, so it'll be sent from your deck, from your hand, anywhere, you can add a dark vampire monster or a vampire spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, and one dark vampire monster you normal summon this turn can be summoned without tributing. So by banishing this card from your graveyard, it allows you to easily normal summon your level 5 and higher without tributing them. The next searcher is Shadow Vampire, another level 5. It's got 2k attack, 0 defense. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon a dark vampire from your hand or deck. Now, the reason this is considered a searcher is because you can search your deck to special summon the monster. So it is a searcher. The exception is you cannot summon another Shadow Vampire with this card. If you use this effect, only that monster can attack for the rest of this turn, and this card cannot be used for the Xyz summon of a monster other than a dark Xyz monster. The final searcher of the deck, as far as monsters are concerned, is Vampire Dragon. This is a level 5 with 2400 attack, 0 defense. When this tribute summoned card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a level 4 lower monster from your deck to your hand. Now this is the better of the searchers for this deck in my opinion, because it does not specifically have to be a vampire or a dark zombie that you search off of this. It's any level 4 or lower monster you can search off of this effect. Now for the rest of the support monsters for the deck, we of course have Vampire Baby. This is a level 3 with 700 attack, 1000 defense. This effect is at the end of the battle phase. If this card destroyed a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can special summon that monster to your side of the field. Now you really are probably not going to run this in the deck because it only has 700 attack. So it's really not going to be attacking over anything. But if you do have consistent ways of boosting this card's attack, you can use your own the monsters your opponent has in the graveyard against them. Next up we have Vampire Hunter. This is the only non-zombie type in the deck, and it is a warrior type. It has 1600 attack and defense, and the effect is at the start of the damage step, this card battles a dark monster, you can destroy that monster. Now this effect does kind of suck because you specifically have to be going up against a deck that primarily uses dark monsters in order for this effect to be useful. You probably aren't going to be running this in any vampire deck. Following that we have Vampire's Curse. This is a level 6 with 2000 attack, 800 defense. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points to special summon it during the standby phase of the next turn, and when you do, it gains 500 attack. So this card has the ability to revive itself from the graveyard and give itself an attack boost. Next up we have everyone's favorite of the archetype, and that is Vampire Vamp. This is a level 7, 2000 attack and defense. The effect is that once per turn, when this card or another vampire monster is normal summoned to your side of the field, now that's very important, it has to be normal summoned, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls whose attack is higher than Vampire Vamp's and equip it to Vampire Vamp. This card gains attack equal to the combined original attack of the monsters equipped to it by this effect, and if this card is sent to the graveyard well equipped with a card by this effect, you can special summon this card from the graveyard. So Vampire Vamp, in my opinion, has the most vampire-like ability of the deck, as it pretty much it takes your opponent's monsters, drains their energy into herself. The final card is Vampire Genesis. This is a level 8 with 3k attack, 2100 defense. This is again one of the original vampire cards for the archetype. The effect is that it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by banishing a vampire lord you control, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn, you can discard one zombie monster to the graveyard, then target a zombie monster in your graveyard with a level less than the discarded monsters and special summon that target. Now this card you probably won't play in vampires either, as it specifically requires you to banish your vampire lord in order to summon it to the field. Now it might be useful at 1, maybe 2 copies, but I would not suggest running this card in the deck, even though it does have very, very good stats, because it will almost be impossible to summon to the field. The archetype boasts only one spell card specific to the archetype, that is Vampire Kingdom, and it is a field spell. This card states that the zombie type monsters gain 500 attack during damage calculation only, and once per turn when a card is sent from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, again harnessing the ability to send your opponent's cards to the graveyard, you can target one card on the field, send one dark vampire monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy that target. So not only do the monsters allow you to get rid of cards in the deck, Vampire Kingdom allows you to destroy your opponent's cards on the field. The deck also boasts only one archetype specific trap card, and that is Vampire Takeover. It's a normal trap that allows you to activate Vampire Kingdom straight from your deck as long as you don't have a field card in your field zone already. And then it allows you to special summon a dark vampire monster from your graveyard and face up to defense position, but you can only use one of these per turn. Now granted, there are other cards that allow you to get your Vampire Kingdom to your hand rather easily, such as Terraforming. Set Rotation will probably be a better choice over Vampire Takeover, but Vampire Takeover does also allow you to revive a monster from your graveyard, allowing you to go into Xyz plays if you need to. The deck has one Xyz monster, and that is Crafton. Crimson Knight Vampire Bram. Now this card obviously was inspired by Bram Stoker, who is the most famous portrayer of vampires in the world, with his Dracula novels being the most popular vampire books in existence. This card is a rank 5. It has 2500 attack, 0 defense, and it requires 2 level 5 zombies to summon it. The effect is that you can detach one material from this card to target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your side of the field, but if you do, only that monster can attack this turn. You can only use this effect of Crimson Knight Vampire Bram once per turn, and during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this in defense position. So it can revive itself from the graveyard and take cards out of your opponent's control so that they cannot use them. Now, on to the support cards. As this is a dark deck and a zombie-based deck, it can easily use cards such as Allure of Darkness for added consistency. And use Book of Life to special summon zombies from your graveyard and banish cards from your opponent's grave. It can easily utilize cards such as Call of the Mummy, which allows you to special summon a zombie type monster from your hand as long as you control no monsters. Overpowering Eye, which I wish was actually part of the vampire archetype, because if you look at the artwork, it does look like it's actual part of the archetype. But this lets you target a zombie you control with 2000 or less attack, and it can attack your opponent directly, and a lot of the zombies have 2k or less attack. You can also utilize Veil of Darkness, which states during your draw phase, if you draw a dark monster, you can reveal any number of them, send them to the graveyard, and then draw one more card. It can also utilize the field spell Zombie World, as all your monsters are already zombies. This turns all monsters on the field and in the graveyard into zombie types, and neither player contributes summon monsters except zombie types. The traps it can utilize most effectively, I found, are the virus cards, such as Crush Card Virus, which allows you to tribute a dark monster with 1000 or less attack, and your opponent takes no damage till the end of the next turn. After this card resolves, also you look at your opponent's hand and all monsters they control, and if you do, destroy the monsters among them with 1500 or more attack, and then your opponent can destroy up to 3 monsters with 1500 or more attack in their deck. The next is, of course, Deck Devastation, which allows you to destroy monsters with 1500 or less attack for the next 3 turns. Eradicator Epidemic, Tribute to Dark with 2500 or more attack to destroy spell and traps for the next 3 turns. And Full Force Virus to destroy monsters with 1500 or less attack for the next 3 turns. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this archetype breakdown. As always, guys, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, I am still taking signups for the 100 subscriber tournament. If you want to join that tournament, comment down in the section below, or send me a message on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Life Facebook group or the Duelist Den Facebook page. But anyway, that's all for today's video, guys. Until next time, this is Harpy Hunter 89 and the voices in my head just wanted to say Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not just a game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is life.